Colorado. Our next speaker has a tremendous track record of leading collaborations with academia, local communities, and local businesses. He's going to share some of his stories about supporting a community-led organization, Bath Hacked Open Data. Please welcome to the stage John Poole.
Okay, hello everyone. Let's press the green button. Hurrah, green button. I'd like to take my 10 minutes to talk to you, hopefully very quickly, about Bath and North East Somerset. Has anyone here been to Bath, knows where it is, not know where we are? Good, okay, I'll spend a bit of time explaining who we are then. And what Bath Hacked is, what we've tried to do, what we've tried to achieve, and then finally why we think the way we've done it is kind of a bit different and hopefully quite a good way of delivering open data. So this is the city of Bath. It's a World Heritage Site. It was founded by King Bladud, allegedly, in around 850 BC because of its healing spa waters. I think it's the only city in the world to be a World Heritage Site, as you can probably guess by the architecture. So about half of our population live there, and about half of our population live in the North East Somerset area, which is a collection of small villages and market towns with what we've got there is the Chew Valley Lake, a reservoir with a flooded church under it and all sorts of other exciting things. Yeah, relatively small local authority, mixture of urban and rural and everything that goes with it. We've also got history of tech and manufacturing, although you wouldn't necessarily know it to look at the place. In the Industrial Revolution, the Cooper and Butler and Tanner steelworks produced massive numbers of cranes that can be found all around the world. These ones are currently still preserved on the Bristol docks. Although the sort of raw materials of innovation have changed a little bit and data's replaced steel, I forget who it was who said that, I couldn't find the quote, in terms of driving a new industrial revolution, the tech sector remains our biggest single industry sector in terms of the number of business units within Bath and North East Somerset. And then I think finally, in terms, by way of an introduction, is our community itself. So those are the world's largest human Olympic rings, obviously, that were created by our community during the run-up to the 2012 Olympics. I think it's a great example of what the local community does when it pulls itself together. So to that extent, when some of our local businesses, some of our local communities members said to some of our local councillors, our local politicians, we think we quite like open data, we'd kind of like to do a hack. It was sort of quite easy to do that. We sort of had that locus, that interest, that drive. And we didn't really have a clue what we were doing. We put a lot of work into exposing data, whatever that meant. It meant finding whatever CSV, Excel files we had lying around and putting it on a website. And we had an event in a local co-working space. And it was great fun. A lot of people who didn't know each other anymore got together, played with code. I learned what an API was. It was really very exciting. And what that created was an initial sort of grouping of people working for the council, working for local community organisations, running local businesses, who started to actually take a bit of ownership about not just doing things with open data, but actually trying to manage the process itself. What we've got here is sort of the beating heart of the Bath Hacked process. It's one of our curators' nights, and these happen usually in the evening with beer. That's very important. And what we have is a mixture of skills, of disciplines, of people who are local small business owners, and the person I always have to highlight here is Dave from our IT department. Now, I think one of the things we heard yesterday was the importance of having real multidisciplinary skills. My background's in social research. I'm the council's research manager. All of this stuff was terrifying to me. But we've got people here who are data visualization experts, coders, hackers, ex-IBM people who want to actually spend the time looking after the data itself. So after having had that initial energy from the first hack itself, we had a bit of momentum behind it. And then from that, the infrastructure rather grew. There we go. One of the first thing that happens was they kind of formed themselves into a bit of an informal steering group, combination of ourselves, members of the community and so forth. And they adopted the following 5 golden rules, not nothing formalised, just how we'd agree to work together, being useful, being open, sharing knowledge, championing privacy and parking politics. The idea is to be relatively politically neutral, to try and take some of the sting out of some of the transparency conversations and some of that real hard competitiveness or combativeness behind some of the conversations, and really focus on this idea of being open in every sense of the word, being welcoming, making sure we were really explicitly reaching out to people who wouldn't traditionally be part of the open data scene, as well as, from the council's perspective, being someone we could quite, a sort of slightly at arm's length organisation we could do business with. And that's really grown with some momentum. So as of March last year, Bath Hacked became what we call in the UK a community interest company. It's basically a not-for-profit organisation. And through that organisation, they run the local data store, which is something we're really quite proud of. So, as I say, I work for the council. I'm not Socrates' contract manager. The city is. And that's really quite an important setting for us in terms of how we manage that relationship and that conversation about what we do. There's the final bit, which is why we bother doing it. The line that we have, as I think you may have picked up from other UK local government, the resources are a little tight at the moment, and there's a huge pressure nationally on ensuring that we get economic growth. Even at the really small end, I think hoping this answers someone who was very, very sceptical about value of hack days. At that very first hack day, 3 guys who'd never met each other before found they had relatively mutual interests, I think would be the best way of putting it, and won an Innovate UK, which is a major government funding stream bid for £1 million to develop iBeacons and doing that would not have happened. That consortium wouldn't have existed. None of that would have happened without the locus that the hack gave these small business people to network, communicate in a safe, non-competitive, we weren't buying anything, just a friendly space. In addition, it's also driving the work of youth development. This is Alex. He's a 13-year-old student from one of the Bath schools who used our air quality data to power a local air quality monitor presenting at the Young Rewired State Festival. And then there's sort of the practical stuff. I won't dwell too much on what we've done. On the right there, you've got the sort of one of the first uses of open data in the area, which was driven out of a local social media site for mums in the city of Bath, who were asking the question, how do I get into this school? What's the best nursery? Where do I need to go? And the local, and that community itself started answering those questions by visualizing and surfacing data that was already out there. Then, of course, we've got our very favorite bit of our bit of data, which is used, God knows, countless hundreds of thousands of times, sits behind the Bath Visit Bath tourist app, etc., and is powered by the availability of local car parks. We've all talked about the thing that's most searched. It's car parks, it's traffic, it's always traffic. What we also have now is a bunch of friends out in the community, a bunch of people I can chat to. This represents what's called the English indices of multiple deprivation. This was produced by a member of the community within about half an hour of the data being released. This is something that would normally get into my workflow for my research team, and we'd produce something. It wouldn't look as pretty as that, and it certainly wouldn't be engaging to the community. For those who've been following the conversation over the last few days, in terms of our life expectancy gap, there's a bus that runs from here up to about there, and just on the 5 stops there, we've got about an 8 or 9 year life expectancy gap for men. So even within somewhere like Bath and North East Somerset, we still experience these inequalities. And then we have our friends. I mean, the local, this is the local Jane Austen festival we're wandering by, and we thought, excellent, here's some people dressed as Georgians. Let's get them sat in front of an iMac and take lots of photos of them. They were really, well, actually, those 2 guys were less happy because it was basically, it was used as a reason to keep them out of the pub for the rest of the afternoon. But what we think this kind of demonstrates is something that sort of fits quite well with the council's vision for a beautifully inventive place. And also, I'm going to have to check my phone now in order to get a quote. I couldn't resist. This is with apologies to Warner, and I'm not on tick from the UK Film Council or anything. There's a quote from our minister that was said this was said in Parliament. I'm particularly pleased to recognise Bath Hacked. in a speech I gave on smarter cities. Bath is leading the way in smart city technology. They're so high-tech it would be the perfect place to set the next Bond movie, which I think if isn't the perfect reason to celebrate open data, I don't know what is. And then finally, before I finish, there is the work we're doing on trying to set this in a broader setting. There's a lot of talk of smart cities. The people end of that sometimes gets lost, and I think what we're saying is if we understand the opportunities of networking, of working between these people, of government, business, academia, and our communities themselves, and maybe not a smart city, but will definitely create a more intelligent place. So that's me on the dot. Say hello, we're lovely. If we can do this with about 180,000 people and no money, what can you guys do?